In the 1970s, few television faces were as familiar as Demond Wilson's. Week after week, he appeared in millions of homes, not as a flashy lead chasing attention, but as a grounding presence audiences trusted. As Lamont Sanford, he became part of the rhythm of American life, someone viewers felt they knew personally. At the height of that success, when most actors would cling tightly to fame, Wilson made a decision that stunned Hollywood. He stepped away. That choice, more than any role, defined the rest of his life. Now, with his passing at the age of 79, his story deserves to be remembered not only for what he achieved on screen, but for what he chose off it. His journey reminds us that success is not always measured by longevity in the spotlight, but by the courage to follow a deeper sense of purpose when the world expects you to stay exactly where you are. The role that changed everything. Demond Wilson's life shifted forever in 1972 when he was cast in Sanford and Son, an American adaptation of a British series that quickly became a cultural force. At just 26 years old, Wilson was placed opposite Red Fox, a seasoned comedian with a towering personality and razor-sharp timing. It was no small challenge, yet Wilson held his ground with quiet strength. As Lamont Sanford, he played the exasperated but loyal son, balancing his father's outrageous schemes with patience and heart. The chemistry between the two actors was electric, creating moments that felt both hilarious and deeply human. The show soared in popularity, becoming one of the highest-rated programs on television and drawing tens of millions of viewers each week. For 5 years, Wilson wasn't just acting. He was helping shape a shared cultural experience that still resonates today. Life after the spotlight. When Sanford and Son ended in 1977, Demond Wilson didn't disappear overnight. He continued working, taking on new sitcoms and roles that allowed him to stretch creatively. Shows like Baby, I'm Back, and The New Odd Couple gave him opportunities to prove he wasn't defined by a single character. He even stepped into film, showing a quiet versatility that often goes unnoticed when fame burns brightest early. Yet something within him was shifting. While his career remained active, his priorities were changing. The applause, the schedules, and the expectations no longer felt fulfilling in the way they once had. Unlike many performers who chase reinvention to stay relevant, Wilson began questioning whether relevance itself was the goal. This internal reckoning wasn't dramatic or public. It was personal, thoughtful, and ultimately life-altering, setting him on a path far removed from Hollywood's constant demands. A turning inward. Sometime in the late 1970s and early 1980s, Demond Wilson experienced a profound spiritual awakening that reshaped his understanding of success. He spoke openly later about feeling empty despite having what many consider everything: fame, money, and recognition. That sense of emptiness led him inward, toward faith and reflection. Wilson became an ordained minister and devoted much of his life to religious work, not as a performance, but as a calling. He wrote books exploring spirituality and personal growth, sharing lessons drawn from his own struggles. For him, faith wasn't an accessory added to a public image. It was a foundation that changed how he lived. This transformation gave him clarity about what mattered most, even when it meant stepping away from opportunities others would fight to keep. His journey showed that fulfillment often begins where external validation ends, walking away with intention. Perhaps the most remarkable chapter of Demond Wilson's life was his decision to step back from acting for nearly 2 decades. In an industry built on visibility, absence is often seen as failure, but Wilson viewed it differently. He turned down roles and opportunities that conflicted with his values, choosing integrity over exposure. This wasn't a retreat fueled by bitterness, but a conscious step toward alignment with his beliefs. While many feared being forgotten, Wilson seemed untroubled by that possibility. He invested his time in ministry, family, and writing, building a life that felt meaningful beyond the camera. That kind of choice requires rare confidence, especially for someone who had once been at the center of popular culture. His absence wasn't a loss of identity. It was a redefinition of it, proving that purpose doesn't disappear when fame fades. A quiet return. After years away from the screen, Demond Wilson made a brief return to acting in 2023 with the drama Eleanor's Bench. It wasn't a flashy or a calculated attempt to reclaim the spotlight. Instead, it felt personal, almost reflective, as though he had something specific he wanted to say before closing that chapter. This final role carried a sense of intention, shaped by a man who had lived fully both inside and outside the industry. There was no sense of unfinished business, only a quiet completion. Wilson didn't return to prove anything to Hollywood or audiences. He returned because the project resonated with him. That choice reflected the wisdom he had gained over decades away, reminding viewers that art created from meaning often speaks louder than art created for attention. It was a fitting final note to a career defined by thoughtful decisions. Remembering the man beyond Lamont. For many, Demond Wilson will always be Lamont Sanford, the patient son navigating chaos with humor and heart. That role remains beloved, continuing to introduce new generations to Sanford and Son through reruns and streaming. Yet limiting his legacy to one character misses the larger truth of who he was. Wilson was an actor who understood balance, a minister who valued humility, an author who shared his inner journey, and a father remembered with love by his family. When his son announced his passing, the message was simple and deeply human, reflecting a life grounded more in relationships than reputation. Wilson's story reminds us that a person can be remembered for laughter, while still being defined by kindness, reflection, and principle. Those qualities endure long after applause fades, shaping a legacy that feels personal rather than performative. Lessons from a different path. In a culture obsessed with constant relevance, Demond Wilson's life offers a powerful alternative narrative. He showed that stepping away doesn't equal giving up, and that success can exist outside public validation. By choosing faith, family, and personal peace, he challenged the idea that fulfillment must come from visibility. His journey encourages reflection, especially for those who feel trapped by expectations that no longer fit. Wilson didn't reject his past. He honored it by allowing it to evolve. He demonstrated that growth sometimes requires distance, and that courage isn't always loud. Sometimes it's found in quiet consistency, in living according to values, even when no one is watching. His life serves as a reminder that authenticity is not measured by applause, but by alignment between belief and action, a lesson that resonates far beyond the entertainment industry. A legacy that still speaks. Demond Wilson passed away at 79, having lived a life that extended far beyond the boundaries of television fame. His work continues to bring joy, laughter, and nostalgia to audiences, while his personal journey offers something equally valuable: perspective. He proved that it's possible to walk away from the spotlight without losing yourself, and to redefine success on your own terms. In an industry often driven by excess and ego, he chose humility and purpose. That choice didn't diminish his impact. It deepened it. As viewers revisit his performances or discover them for the first time, they're not just watching a sitcom star. They're witnessing the early chapters of a life guided by conviction. Demond Wilson's story doesn't end with his final role. It continues in the example he set, reminding us all that it's okay to choose a different path.